Yep, gears in a machine gun. This mechanical wonder of supersonic lead sending is the French 1907 Saint-Étienne heavy machine gun, and I will tell you why it's probably the coolest machine gun you don't know. Generally, self-loading guns use a piston that is moved backward by the gases caused by firing the cartridge, but it's a French weapon, so it must be uniquely French. So the piston of the 1907 Saint-Étienne moves forward and can only push the bolt rearward thanks to its rack and pinion system. Why? Because it's French. Oh, but it gets weirder. The 1907 has a fire rate reducing system going from 600 rounds per minute to 8 rounds a minute. And I'm not done yet. It has a shroud around the barrel to isolate heat, and has a built-in system that automatically adjusts the sights as the barrel expands from the heat. You can joke on us French all you want. We made some very cool guns. This thing is the Russian PTRD-41, a single-shot anti-tank rifle measuring 2 meters long, or 79.5 inches for those using Freedom units, which makes it approximately 1 Haycock 45 long. The more you know. Anyway, you would think that this thing's length is ridiculous enough, but no, it is chambered in the 14.5 by 114mm cartridge. To put it into perspective, here is 50 BMG, and there's the 14.5. And with this cartridge, the PTRD-41 could penetrate up to 30mm of armor at 500 meters. Imagine being in a light armored vehicle, thinking you're safe, and being absolutely destroyed by a mean tube. And if it wasn't stupid enough, know that there are stories of people in Siberia who used PTRDs to hunt whales. Nope, this thing is not a child drawing brought to reality. This is the Dardic 1500, a polymer frame magazine-fed revolver. You think it's weird? Well, it uses polymer rounds. Triangular rounds. I couldn't make this up if I wanted to. But why triangular rounds? So it can be fed reliably to the open sight cylinder from the fixed magazine that you load from a gate on the left side of the gun. You know, if it had a detachable magazine, like any pistol of the time, it could have been really good. I mean, it held 15 rounds in the magazine, which was unheard of in handguns when it came out in 1959. Instead, it will be remembered in firearms history as one of the most impractical and ugliest revolver of all time. Well, maybe not as ugly as this one. You'll be the judge. This is a Mosin Nagant, but this ain't no normal Mosin. This is the Mosin Nagant Aftermath. But how can it fire full auto? The Mosin is a bolt-action rifle. By grafting a gas piston on the side of the gun, and attaching it to the bolt, of course, just like the Canadian Hewitt automatic rifle. Eerily similar, huh? The Hewitt was an attempt at converting the Ross rifle to full auto. And like pretty much all attempts at converting bolt actions to semi or even full auto, it went very poorly. But fortunately for us, guns don't have this kind of problem in video games, so we can just enjoy them for what they are. Nope, this ain't a gun made for ants. This is the Austrian Colibri, one of the smallest gun ever created, and the smallest semi-auto pistol ever made. Indeed, this gun is so small it could fit in the palm of your hand. And of course, you need tiny cartridges for such a tiny pistol. So here I present to you the 2.7 Colibri cartridge. Here is a 22 long rifle for scale. I told you the thing was small, but was it effective though? Well, when fired, the 2.7 Colibri delivered the incredible amount of 4 joules. So clearly, the only world in which this gun does more than pissing someone off is Battlefield 1. So why was it even made then? Well, probably for the best reason possible. Technical challenge. This gun was made by a watchmaker and was never meant to be more than a novelty. And I'm sure that his designer, Franz Fanny, took great pride in achieving this technical prowess. Among video game guns, there are not a lot of them as detailed as the Malorian Arms 3516. Mechanically speaking, Johnny's sidearm clearly is short recoil operated, with what looks like a rotating bolt. The magazine is in front of the trigger, but right under the barrel. So how could it work? Probably just like the Mars automatic pistol. Well, except that the Mars is long recoil operated. In a long recoil system, the recoil pushes the barrel with the bolt all the way to the back of the receiver, and the bolt unlocks as the barrel goes forward. In a short recoil system, The barrel just moves slightly to unlock the bolt. But everything else in the Mars could very well be how the 3516 works. If you look up at how cartridges are picked up from the magazine, even though the barrel is right above, and you compare it to the 3516, well, kinda checks out. And in terms of aesthetic, the 3516 looks like the child of a Desert Eagle and a Mauser C96. What makes an assault rifle? Well, simply two criteria. An assault rifle uses what we refer to as an intermediate cartridge, meaning more powerful than a pistol cartridge, but slightly less powerful than a rifle cartridge. That way, it can reach out to targets at least 300 yards with manageable recoil. And probably the most important thing about assault rifles, the fire selector. This mechanism allows the gun to go from semi-automatic, so one shot per trigger pull, thanks to the disconnector catching the hammer between each shot, or it can go to automatic fire, and the hammer will hit the firing pin as soon as the bolt is fully forward. So no, a semi-automatic rifle is not an assault rifle. Here is the stupid gun of the week, the Remington e-tron X. I know, it looks like the most normal bolt action imaginable, but it has a twist. An adjustable electronic firing system. The future! But what does it do? Well, because it is electronic, the pressure needed to fire can be whatever you want, literally from an ounce to 50 pounds, which sounds good on paper. I mean, your trigger can be as light as you want, so where's the catch? Because it works electronically, there's no firing pin like in every normal gun, so the cartridges are literally fired by the power of Zeus, meaning you need special primers in your cartridges for them to work in the e-tron X, and those were far more expensive than normal primers, so much so that no one wanted it. Oh, and one more funny thing, you need a key for the gun to work. If you lose it, well, you're out of luck, and you now have an unusable e-tron X. And to top it all off, in French, the word étron means turd. How ironic. And this may be one of the coolest guns in video game history, and also one of the best tools to bring democracy in the name of Super Earth. This is the autocannon, literally a shoulder-fired piece of artillery. When you see it in action, you probably think immediately of the Luger, with this giant toggle moving after each shot. And you'd be right. And also, just like the Luger, the autocannon uses a short recoil system to unlock its toggle. And the second biggest inspiration for this gun uses a short recoil system as well. This is the Barrett M82A2, a bullpup version of the famous 50 cal Barrett M82 designed to shoot down helicopters. Well, it didn't work out in the end, surprisingly, but it made an iconic gun. The last inspiration for this gun doesn't draw from reality, but from another fictional weapon, and this was confirmed by one of the devs. This is the SPIW 2020 Mini 14 penetrator from Ghost in the Shell, which also has a Luger-like toggle lock system. Believe it or not, as big as this gun is, it wasn't even used in war or to destroy big targets. This is a punt gun, and it was in fact designed to fight one of nature's most dangerous creations, the top of the food chain, the duck. Mostly used in the 19th century for industrial hunting, punt guns were muzzle-loaded guns, meaning that just like a musket, powder must be poured into the barrel, and the projectile must be rammed as far as possible to ensure there's no air pocket between the powder and the projectiles, which, if it was the case, would turn the gun into a freaking grenade. But why were they so big? Well, punt guns were used with shots, not slugs. The larger the bore, the more shots you can cram down the barrel. That way you could throw hundreds of pellets in one trigger pull, so potentially gather a ton of ducks in one shot. But of course, because they were so heavy, punt guns weren't made to be shoulder fired. Instead, they were fixed to the front of a boat, and were notorious for having a recoil so heavy that they would push a boat several feet back. I'm sorry, Americans, but your ping dispenser is heavily based on this French rifle, the RSC 1917. Probably one of the coolest looking rifle ever, chambered in the cartridge that shall not be named. It was the first semi-automatic rifle adopted by France, and mechanically speaking, well, let's say there's a lot in common between the Garand and the RSC. Both use a long-stroke gas piston system, meaning that the piston and the ball carrier travel together when gases caused by firing push on the piston. Speaking of which, the piston and the charging handle are linked together, just like the M1. And both the Garand and the RSC use a rotating bolt and are fed by end-block clips. What makes the real difference between the two rifles is the loading. The Garand's 8-round clip is loaded from the top and is automatically ejected when the last round is fired. But to load the RSC, you first have to literally open the magazine, put the 5-round clip in, then close the magazine.